we shall be starting with paper 2 today. The first topic that we shall be covering is organization theory. Organization theory caters to section A in paper 2 along with organization behavior. Now, going by the syllabus of UPSC, the first topic that is stated is nature and concept of organizations. Now, in this topic, what we shall be covering first is what is an organization, then what are the views of the various thinkers, what all views they have given, because every thinker has had a different perspective and they've provided a certain different viewpoint. We shall be studying those. Now, why studying these? Because UPSC has been asking questions out of this, like organization is an open dynamic system, comment, organization is a systematic coordination of two or more people. So these all things are basically the definitions given by different thinkers. It is the perspective of those thinkers. So we need to study these. We need to have a knowledge about these. Then the next thing, when we study these definitions, what we realize is that the organizations have been clubbed into four different aspects, have been provided four different aspects. Like it has been given that organization is a process, organization as a system, organization as a structure of relationships, organization as a group of persons. So we need to know what we'll do here is that under these four aspects, we'll see which all thinkers are covered in which aspect. Okay, so this is essential. Then why this is essential is because while answer writing, when we provide all these aspects, it will help you fetch you more marks. Now the next thing which has been covered is the images of the organization. Now there's one more thing. When we see the perspectives given by various thinkers, we realize that organizations have been clubbed into different images. Now this is another perspective of looking at the same thing. It is not something new that we will be doing. It is only that we are looking at it in a different way. Now when we use all these perspectives in our answer, because it is nothing new, when we use it in our answers, it will definitely add dimension to it and it will help you provide more marks, because it will become more qualitative. Now, after studying these images of the organizations, what we'll do is that because we have studied the organizations in detail by now, so what we'll do is that we'll study the basic features of the organization. Fine. Basic features, why these are essential? See, any of you, I mean most of you must be knowing what are the features of the organization. Definitely. But when it is asked in the examination, most of us fail to write it within that stipulated time. We don't have time to think there, right? So it is very essential that you have knowledge about it in the first instance and just don't think about it. If you're asked, you just reproduce it there. And another thing is that this again has been asked in the UPSC. Write the basic features of the organization, describe in detail the basic features. So you must have knowledge of it. It is a very easy thing, nothing new. But again, we fail to reproduce it in the exam because of want of time. So have knowledge of it in the first instance itself. Then the next thing is that after doing these images of the organizations, we'll move on to is that Mckinsey 7S framework. Now Mckinsey 7S framework, why are we studying this? See, it is I'm just giving in a brief intro right now. I'll do it in detail. Mckinsey 7S framework is essential because it is an organizational tool to achieve organization effectiveness. It was developed in the early 1980s, but why it is essential is because it is a tool to study organization effectiveness, and because we are studying organization theory, what we need to study this, because the purpose of organization theory is to study the structure, the functions, the performance of organization to achieve organization effectiveness. Fine, because our main aim is to achieve organization effectiveness in this organization theory. Therefore, we have to study what Mckinsey 7S framework says, and it provides certain internal elements of an organization that you have to pay attention to. Then the next thing is that Mckinsey 7S framework, then we have the importance of the organization, the challenges of the organization. You need to know all these aspects. It's very simple, but the only thing is have knowledge of all these points beforehand, so that if you're asked in UPSC, you don't have to think about it. Fine. And this section, that is this topic, nature and concept of organization, UPSC has been asking questions from it directly. And being a commerce student, by now if you have gone through the question papers, you'll realize that the questions asked are often very direct. It's not something they're asking you some rocket science that you're not able to understand the question. It's only your knowledge, it's only your understanding of the concept that will help you sail through the exam and fetch you more marks. Now let's start with the topic, organization. The first thing that we shall be studying is what is an organization. Now see, if we've not studied management, if we've not studied commerce, if we've not studied the different thinkers or the perspectives, we don't have knowledge about it, what will we say? According to a layman, what is organization? Organization is a group of two or more people who come together to achieve certain predetermined objectives. Fine. It is a group of two or more people, group of two or more, and predetermined objectives. See, a single person is never an organization. Now, if you feel that organizations, here we only refer to those big corporates, the MNCs, you are wrong. Organization is existing everywhere. In our daily lives, if two or more people are involved, if there's a common purpose, there's a common goal, if maybe you with your friends are involved in certain activity with some common purpose, then also it is an organization. Whether you're preparing for some exam with your friends to achieve certain group. A single person is never an organization. A school, like you can say, a salon where you go. What else? I mean, there's so many examples. Everything in our daily lives is organization. It's only that we need to have some common purpose. We cannot do away with this thing because the purpose is very important while organizing. Then, so this is a layman's perspective. A group of two or more people who come together to achieve certain predetermined objectives. But this is not suffice. Okay. When we are asked in UPSC, we have to provide the perspectives given by various thinkers because that is the only thing that will add quality to our answers. We cannot just add a layman's definition because this is UPSC. Now, we have to add, what we'll do is that the definitions given by various thinkers, is it visible? Definition given by various thinkers. The first thinker that we shall do is Bernard. Secondly, Katzenkan. Thirdly, Wheeler. Salmon. See, when it comes to organization, these are some of the very common thinkers which you will find in many of the books as well if you read. Now, Bernard has stated, what Bernard has stated is that an organization is a system of two or more persons which is being consciously coordinated to achieve certain predetermined objects. Specifically stating, organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities of two or more persons. Bernard has referred to the organization as a system. If you notice that he's referred to it as a system of two or more persons, conscious coordination. Okay. Now what happens is, Bernard has said that organization is a consciously coordinated activities, consciously coordinated two or more persons system. These are the three aspects which Bernard has focused on, that an organization is a system, it is a conscious coordination, and two or more persons are involved. Fine. If we break the definition. Now, why has he called it as a system? System, he has called it because an organization does not exist in isolation. An organization has an environment. It interacts with this environment. It basically gets affected by this environment. There are constant changes taking place in this environment. Like you can say the technological changes are taking place. So these all things affect the organization. So organization as a system. Bernard has provided that organization is a system, a conscious coordination of two or more persons. So as a system, he has referred it that it does not exist in isolation and it has an environment. It has an environment with which it interacts continuously. Second aspect is conscious coordination. See, an organization is not something which just comes up. It is a conscious coordination because we have certain predetermined objectives which we have to achieve. So it is a conscious coordination where the activities of all the individuals in the organization add to the achievement of the objectives. Every worker's work, every individual's work add to the achievement of these goals which have been determined in advance, which are determined at the time of formation of the organization, which it's not that only one goal is achieved, but they keep on changing, but every individual is working towards accomplishment of those goals. Fine. So it is a conscious coordination. It is something that it has been created, keeping in mind the goals of the organization, the goals that are to be achieved. Then the next thing, after Bernard, we have Katz and Kahn. Katz and Kahn has defined the organization as an open system. Katz and Kahn has defined the organization as an open dynamic system. Now see, open dynamic system, UPSC has asked this question in the recent years. The organization is an open dynamic system, explain. Fine. Now you have to pay attention to three things here, all the three words. That organization is an open dynamic system. Open dynamic system. Every word has a different connotation and it is very important definition. You need to have understanding of each and every word stated here. Open. Why an organization is open? See, what he's tried to specify is that an organization does not exist in isolation. It exists in a particular environment. It interacts with this environment. It gets affected by this environment. So basically, it is an open system. You have an environment here which affects its activities, right? It sources its inputs, its resources from this environment. Then we have the next word that he stated, and it carries importance, is dynamic. Why dynamic? Because it keeps on changing. It keeps on changing. It's very like, if you see what it means, dynamic is something which keeps on changing, right? So it keeps on changing. What keeps on changing? The environment keeps on changing, and the organization has to adapt to this changing environment. Fine. Adapt to this changing environment. Dynamic keeps on changing, adapt to this changing environment. How will you adapt to this changing environment? You have to keep your strategy, structures flexible enough. You should not have rigidity. See, rigidity, if you have rigidity, then your environment will definitely change, but you'll have different scenarios, you'll have different challenges existing in front of you. But if you do not change, it will be difficult to accomplish the goals. So you have to keep flexible structures. Flexible structures. So this is what is meant by dynamic here. System. Again, system, it does not exist in isolation. It exists in an environment. Now, it exists in an environment. So, what is the role of environment here? The organization as a system sources its inputs. Like you have three things here. Inputs, processes, and output. The organization sources its input from its environment, See, organization as a system, this is a very important concept, and you need to, if at all you're asked, this organization is an open dynamic system, if UPSC repeats it, then definitely you have to make this in your answers. What happens is that this is a flow diagram providing that how it is a system. The organization exists in its environment. Fine. The organization sources its input from this environment. What are the inputs? The inputs can be men, materials, machine, technology, whatever you need to accomplish your tasks, whatever you source, it is from the environment, because organization cannot produce everything by itself. It has to source things from somewhere. So the inputs, it sources its inputs from the environment, and through the processes, it transforms these inputs to output. Output can be the goods and services that the customer, that we as individuals demand from the organization. And what happens is that after sourcing these inputs, it goes through these processes. What are these processes? These processes are the different functions that are carried out in the organization, the different tasks that are carried out in the organization. And it can be staffing, recruitment, all the processes, basically whatever you know, whatever the organization does to accomplish its goal is basically a part of process. So with these processes, it transforms these inputs into output. And these output, it is not the end or here of the organization. What happens is this output becomes the input for any other activity. So this is how there's a constant interaction. It keeps on going. It keeps on changing. It keeps on going. And that is why it is a system. This is the concept of system: input, process, and output. And you have to mention all this if you have been asked that organization is an open dynamic system, or maybe Chester Bernard's definition is given that it is a system of consciously coordinated. Again, wherever you have system, you provide this. Fine. This has been provided in all of the books which you may refer. And then the next thing which we have is, after Katz and Kahn, we have Wheeler's definition. After Katz and Kahn, we have Wheeler's definition. What Wheeler has stated is that an organization is a structural framework of duties and responsibilities. Here he is referred to the authority-responsibility relationships that exist in the organization. Like you have a superior-subordinate relationship. We have an organization. When we have an organization, we have different structures. The top level, the hierarchy is created. So between these hierarchies, there's communication, coordination. This communication coordination is through an established network. It is not that you can communicate, a lower level manager can communicate to the senior level manager directly. No, there is a hierarchy. You have to follow that hierarchy, right? So that is what is Wheeler has said, that it is a framework. It is a structural framework of duties and responsibilities. These duties and responsibilities need to be performed for the accomplishment of the goals. Fine. So this is what Wheeler has stated. Then after Wheeler, we have Simon. Simon is also very important. Why he is important is that Simon has provided that organization as a complex network of decisional processes. He said it is a complex network. See, it is complex. There's complexity involved and decisional processes. Organization is a complex network of decisional processes. He said, why complex? Because there are different authority responsibility relationship, different organization charts, different there's so many people reporting to different people. So it's kind of complex structure. Okay, so it is a complex network of decisional processes. Now these decisions are made at different levels of the organization. What happens is that we have a hierarchy in the organization. Fine. We have a hierarchy, the top level, the middle level, the lower level, to be more precise. Now, at every level, decisions are made. It's not that for the entire structure here all the decisions are made, or maybe here the decision is made for this level. Even the top level decisions will be applicable here. So for every level, at every level, there are decisions being made. Now, when these decisions are made, the importance of the decision lies on who makes these decisions. If the decision, say it by yourself, if a decision is made at lower level, do you think that this decision is more important or a decision made at this level? Obviously, this decision is more important. So the importance of a decision lies as to where the decision has been made. Fine. So it is a complex network of decisional processes. What is referred to is that there's complexity involved, there are different structural relationships. That amongst the structural relationships, again, there are in the formal construct, you have the informal relationships being set up. you interact, you develop your peer group. So it is a complex network of decisional processes. Decisions being made at different levels, different the hierarchy you have. At every level, decisions are being made, and these affect each other obviously. And the importance lies on where these decisions are made. This is what he said. Another concept that Salmon has provided is that there is bounded rationality in the organizations. Why bounded rationality? What he mentions, what he basically wants to provide here is that managers do not make perfect decisions. They are humans. There is rationality. That rationality is bounded. They do not make perfect decisions. Why? Because there are a number of constraining factors. Okay. Now, these constraining factors can range from like technological constraints, fear, the human motives, maybe the individual goals are not aligned with the organizational goals. They may not take, or maybe their personal situations. They may not be able to take perfect decisions, and hence managers do not aim to have maximum satisfaction out of a decision. Okay. What they aim at is that even if they have some good enough satisfaction from a decision, they're satisfied. So they do not aim at perfect decisions. They do not aim to have a maximum satisfaction from a decision. They aim at having even a good enough satisfaction. And now why? Because there is bounded rationality, and there are a lot of constraining factors, and that is what is the concept of bounded rationality, which stands importance here. We shall be doing all this in detail later when the chapter covers in OB or OT, wherever it is being covered. We shall be doing it later as well. But here, when it comes to organization as a complex decisional process, you need to have knowledge of all of these. Fine. Then the next thing, which is one more definition which has been left, is Kuntz or Donnell. Now, what we shall be referring is, we shall be referring to the definition of Kuntz and Donnell, what he has provided about the organization. Kuntz or Donnell has provided that organization is a process. Fine, this is very important from the exam point of view also, because you should know that why it is a process. If it is asked, you have to state basically the tasks that are taking place, which adds dimension to it as a process. Fine. Why is it a process? Because it involves the following all these activities to achieve the goals. Now, these are taking place at different levels in the organization, which we all know. The first thing that can be added here as a process is, the first task is determining the objective. While basically designing an organization, the first thing that any management would want to do is determining the objectives, because as we said, that organization has certain predetermined objectives. So determination of the objective is the first task. You have to determine what all goals are you intending to achieve, what all objectives you have in mind, and only then you can identify the tasks that are necessary to achieve these objectives. Okay. So after determining the objectives, we identify the tasks that are necessary for the achievement of these objectives or the goals. The next thing, after identifying the activities that we need to do, that we need to perform in a daily organizational life, the next thing is grouping of the related tasks. We have to group the related tasks together. This is job designing. What we do is that all the financial tasks are related into the finance function, the marketing tasks into the marketing function, the human resource into the human resource function. So all of them are grouped according to where they belong to. Fine. So this is job designing. After this job designing, we'll understand that who all do we need for our organization to carry out these tasks. After designing these jobs, we assign these jobs. We place the right people at the right place. If we have a marketing executive, we know that the person is very good at marketing skills, then we should place him into the marketing department. We should not place him into the finance department, right? So this is something that assigning the jobs, placing right man at the right place. Whoever is good for whatever purpose, we will provide him with that particular task so that he can accomplish it in a better manner, in an efficient manner. Then the next is creating authority-responsibility relationship. Once we have identified the task, grouped the related tasks, assigned the jobs, now we have different people working at different levels in the organization, because there are different levels. Now, these all people, we create an authority-responsibility relationship among them. They have to report to someone above them. They have to basically, and someone, a supervisor, will be required to take reports from his subordinates. So there's authority responsibility relationships. After this authority responsibility relationship, we have the communication and the coordination. They all basically after establishing this authority responsibility relationship, we have communication and coordination. They all communicate. The people at different levels in the organization, they communicate with each other. This communication should be clear. It should not be there should not be any ambiguity involved, and they should coordinate properly, because coordination of tasks is very important to accomplish the objectives. Only a coordinated effort can help them move towards the goal, achieve the organizational effectiveness. Now, you have realized after doing these 5 definitions, like of all these thinkers, these are some of the very basic definitions given by the thinkers, and it's nothing new, but they're often asked directly in the exam, but you're not provided the thinker who has provided it. So if you're asked organization as a process, you need to mention Kuhn O'Donnell. You need to mention the activities that are being carried out, which makes it a process. And then the next thing is that after having a look at the various perspectives given by various thinkers, we come to a conclusion. Organization has been clubbed into 4 different aspects. Okay, organization as a process, this is one. Organization as a system, then organization as a structure of relationships, organization as a structure of relationships, and organization as a group of persons. After looking at the various definitions, we get all these 4: as a process, as a system, as a structure of relationship, as a group of persons. As a process, we have seen that these are all the tasks that the organization has to perform for the accomplishment of the objectives. Kuhn O'Donnell is covered here. As a system, we have seen Bernard is covered here, because he said that organization is a system of consciously coordinated efforts. Then as a system, Katz and Kahn is covered here. Why Katz and Kahn? Because he said that organization is an open dynamic system. Then as a structure of relationships, here Wheeler will be covered. Then there is one more, Mooney and Rayleigh, which we have not covered here. Mooney and Rayleigh, what Mooney and Rayleigh has provided is that organization as the form of every human association for a common purpose. Organization as the form of every human association, Mooney and Rayleigh. Organization as the form of human association for every common purpose. Then the next thing is organization as a group of persons. Organization as a group of persons, here also you can see Bernard is covered. Okay. These all aspects, why is it important is because we have seen that from all these perspectives, we come to a conclusion that organization is a process, it is a system, it is a structure of relationship, it is a group of persons. All these things are very important. If you are asked something to write about the organization, you can use these in your answers directly. And also, please note the, like you can say, the thinkers which have been provided in these. You need to relate all these aspects with the thinkers, because relation is very important here. You cannot just study in isolation. You have to relate all these aspects. That Bernard Nikaki, it is a system. Katz and Kahn has said that it is an open dynamic system. You relate it to the systems aspect. Okay. After understanding the four different aspects of the organization, the process, system, structure of relationship, and group of persons, we come to another aspect, images of organizations. Now you'll feel that this is a new topic. No, this is not a new topic. It is the same information being provided a new dimension. Okay. Why a new dimension? Because when we look at the theories given by various theorists, the definition given by various theorists, we realize that they have provided certain image. So they have provided certain aspects which cannot be overlooked. If you add these aspects in your answers, you will have an edge over others, definitely. Now, images of the organization, please don't think that this is a new topic. It is the same information being clubbed in a different manner. Images of the organization. Organization, the first image which we come to a conclusion is that organization is a machine. How do we come to this organization as a machine? Here, we basically refer to Weber, Fayol, Taylor, Erwick. then Adam Smith, much before Weber. What they have stated is that Adam Smith, he had propounded basically division of labor. Okay, he says that division of labor replace the discretion of the workers with the control of the machines. What he meant was that do not provide any discretion to the workers. You have to frame certain rules, certain regulations, let them work within that framework. Do not ask them to think. They have to work within that particular framework which you have provided. You are not providing them discretion. So replace the discretion of the workers with the control of the machines. That is what Adam Smith has said, and hence a mechanistic structure. Mechanistic structure hereby refers to detailed rules, regulations that every individual has to follow within such an organization. There is rigidity of tasks. There is only one way of performing a task. It's not that you can perform one way in different manner. Because why? Because you have so many rules that you have been provided only a particular way of doing tasks. You have to follow that way. There is no other choice available to you. Fine. So it is a mechanistic structure. Organization as a machine covers this mechanistic structure, whereby Adam Smith has provided division of labor. You replace the discretion of the workers with the control provided by the machines. Secondly, we covered here is Weber. Weber has provided a highly mechanical form of organization, which is the bureaucracy. He says that there should be detailed rules and regulations within every organization, within which every individual should follow. There is high formalization involved. He does not provide for the informal constructs. The informal organization is not desired. There is a hierarchy. You have to follow this hierarchy. You cannot overlook this. If you have a particular way of communication, you have to go by that particular way. And because you have so many detailed rules, again, so that is why a mechanistic structure. Again, here we refer to Fayol, Taylor, Erwick. Everyone is aware of what Fayol and Taylor has said. You can refer it to the books. It's given almost in every book since 11th standards. So what Fayol and Taylor, they have provided certain principles that there should be a scalar chain, there should be unity of command, there should be a particular hierarchy that is followed. The tasks should be accomplished in this particular manner. They have provided so many principles, so many detailed rules and regulations that again they also do not advocate for providing discretion to the workers. And because they are not providing discretion, again they refer to mechanistic structure. So it is not something new that we are reading. We have read all these theorists. Adam Smith might be new to some, but Adam Smith in 1770 somewhere he had provided for this division of labor. He also provides that don't provide discretion to the workers. Weber, bureaucracy, very famous. Then Fayol, Taylor, Erwick, all of them are covered in this organization as a machine. So if you are asked a question maybe on division of labor, you can provide this Adam Smith, you can provide the mention of Adam Smith. If you provided somewhere bureaucracy question, maybe in the questions ahead, you can use this dimension of organization as a machine, that Weber has added that dimension, that it is organization as a mechanistic structure. Maybe you won't be provided directly everywhere, right? Somewhere you might be provided in these while covering these theories that yes, it has mechanistic structure or something, but in every theory you won't be provided these dimensions. So make sure that you relate all these dimensions to the theorists. Fine. Living system. After covering organization as machines, the next image that we arrive at is that organization as a living system. Now here the theorist that we shall be covering is Katz-Kahn. Why? Because he has provided organization as an open dynamic system, which we've already studied. He's provided a life system perspective. From this we get to know that Katz-Kahn has provided a life system perspective to the organization. So when it was asked in the UPSC exam a few years back, you could have easily written that it provides a life system perspective to the organization. This would have provided you more marks, definitely. Now, why is organization referred to as a living system? Because as individuals, organizations grow, they mature, and they decline. Fine. Individuals also go through all these stages. So it's like organizations have been compared here to living beings. They have been provided a life system perspective. They grow, they mature, they decline, they change and evolve. Why they change and evolve? Because organizations are existing in an environment. Every individual, like we exist in an environment. we adapt. We have to adapt to this environment. We change ourselves, we evolve. And the same way, the organizations are also existing in an environment. They do not exist in isolation, and hence they have to adapt to the environment. They need to grow, they need to mature. And after reaching a certain stage, every organization, basically there's a declining stage for every organization too. So that they change and evolve, and hence a life system perspective. Now here the theorist which we are covering, Katz-Kahn, he says open dynamic system. We know how it is an open dynamic system, so we shall not go into all those aspects of system, dynamic and open. But here another aspect which I shall ask you to basically incorporate in your notes is that Katz-Kahn, by stating this, has provided a life system perspective to the organization. What he says is that the primary goal of an organization is survival and adaptation to the environment. Okay, survival and adaptation to the environment. An organization, as an organization is formed, it is formed in its environment. It has to make efforts to survive, and once it survives, because there is constant interaction with this environment, it needs to adapt to this environment. To adapt to this environment, it needs to bring about the changes required in its strategy, in its structure, in all the various processes that are being carried out within that particular organization. And hence, they develop the strategies and the structure to achieve these primary goals. And therefore, we can say that Katz-Kahn has placed emphasis on the strategies and structures within this definition of open dynamic system. So, open dynamic, if at all it is asked again, if it is repeated, how an organization, because the questions are being repeated in commerce some year or the other. So, if you are asked how an organization is an open dynamic system, you have to provide this aspect too, to basically have more marks. Another as now the third image. The third image basically is of organization as a brain. Organization as a brain. Organization as a brain. Why brain? Because we are the organization, it is interacting with its environment. It sources its inputs from its environment. Now, when it sources its input, it is basically receiving certain information from its environment. Because to adapt, you have to look what your environment, in what kind of environment you basically survive, right? So, organization as a brain, the organization interacts with its environment, and in this interaction, it basically has to behave proactively. It has to be a proactive entity, and moreover, how proactive? It receives certain information, it processes that information, and then it adapts in that manner. It receives, processes information, and it acts on the basis of the information that it has received from its environment. It is anticipating and planning in advance for the future requirements. Like you can say the technological advancement, right? Every organization knows that there will be technological advancement. Now there's an organization which relies on technology. It cannot be just keeping its doors closed, doors closed for the technological inventions. It has to keep in mind that the technology is changing. So whatever changes are taking place, you have to adapt to them. You have to anticipate what kind of changes will take place within your environment, how you have to behave, how you have to respond to those changes. So anticipating and planning for future. When an organization anticipates, plans for future, it is behaving proactively. It is not just responding to what comes in its way, right? It is not being reactive. It is being proactive. And hence it has been classified as a brain here, that we consciously plan strategies, structures to adapt to the environment. And after this perspective, the next perspective which comes is that organization as a political system. Why organization as a political system? This is again very simple. If we see that there are different hierarchies existing within the organization, within these different hierarchies at different levels, different people have different power. Obviously, the power with individuals at different levels are different. Now, there are power equations existing within the organization. Power equations existing. Equations. There are power equations existing amongst the individuals at different level. We have a built-in hierarchy. We have authority responsibility relationships. We have different levels in that structure. Different people are making different decisions, but whose decisions will be valid? Whose decisions, like if you have that decisions being made at different levels, whose decisions will be given more importance? That is what is the power stand. That is what is power. So we have different power equations. The importance, like we have studied in Salmon's complex decisional processes, that in a hierarchy we have different decisions being made, and the importance of the decision lies as to where that decision is made. Similarly, the importance of the decision here, the importance of power is that who has more power? A department whom you cannot do without. Okay, you need that. Who is central to all other activities? Who basically is providing you the main, who is actually contributing in the most efficient manner, that you cannot do away with this department. That will have more influence on decisions rather than the one who is just whose decisions can be influenced. Then, so departments cannot be substituted, departments which cannot be substituted for their work, which are central to other departments, deal effectively with uncertainty, okay, which are central, which deal effectively with uncertainty, enjoy greater power, and hence we call organizations as political systems because of the different power equations that exist among individuals at different levels. Everyone is trying to control the other individual, right? We are trying to influence others. Who will get influenced or not depends upon where you stand, what is your importance to the organization, and that is why we have classified your organization as a political system. So the only importance here you have to place is to the power equations, to the hierarchy, to the authority responsibility relationships, and because like everyone is not standing at the same place, we have different importance being given, and therefore organization as a political system. Now the next thing is that organization as a culture is very important. Okay, now the next image is organization as a culture. Here what we refer to is that every organization has certain values that it has been following. These values are the core values which basically affect every part of the organization. Then it has certain rituals which are being performed by the individuals. It is the manner in which the tasks have been performed, the way of doing, the way of performing, how it has been going through those activities, how it has been performing those activities. So every organization has certain values, rituals which it follows, and these values, rituals form the basic of that organization and affect. And these core values should be clear, unambiguous, and widely shared. It is very important that these values are clear. There should not be any ambiguity. They should be known by employees at every level, because the values form the basic part of any organization. They tend to affect every aspect of the organization. Now here, when we classify the organization as a culture, we shall place emphasis on the Mckinsey 7S framework. Now, as I had initially said in my introduction, that Mckinsey 7S framework is an organization tool to achieve organizational effectiveness. Fine. What happens is that these core values, it has been stated by the Mckinsey 7S framework that these core values are very important for the success of an organization. These core values affect every part of the organization. So we shall be studying Mckinsey 7S framework as a continuation of this. These were the 5 different images of the organizations. Now, mind it that this is not something new that we have studied. You have studied all this information somewhere or the other, or if you've not studied, you shall be reading it in your classes, or maybe in your books, or maybe on the net, wherever you are sourcing information from. It's only that we are clubbing that information so that it can be used effectively in the exam. You don't need to think about these aspects, these images. If you are provided a certain sentence, if you are provided a certain definition, if you are provided a certain thinker to write upon, then you can provide these aspects as well. It's just that add quality to your answers, relate your answers. What we have done in all these images is that we have provided various thinkers. What we have done in all those four aspects was that we have provided that what Bernard has said, what Katz and Kahn, where like it is a system, it is a group of persons, Bernard has said, it is a, like you can say, a structure of relationship, Wheeler, Mooney and Rayleigh has said. So all these aspects, it is very important to relate these thinkers with these aspects. Like doing in isolation will not fetch the purpose, and it's very easy to understand. You just need to understand the topic. Mugging up is not the sole purpose, because mugging up will not help you out in UPSC. How much will you mug up? The syllabus is so vast. So here the only thing that will help you out is that relate every information that you study at that point itself. We have not studied these thinkers in detail, but we have related it right now, so that whenever we study ahead, in maybe in the chapters coming, we shall relate it here that yes, we have studied organization as a machine, we have studied organization as a mechanistic structure. Weber has said that, Fayol Taylor has said that. So relating aspects is very important here. Now after this, these 5 images, we come to Mckinsey 7S framework, which fits in here as well. If you are provided that organization as a culture, you can provide the Mckinsey 7S framework study here, and it is a very interesting and a very good, obviously, if it has been, it is very renowned, so obviously it has to be good. And now we shall move on to Mckinsey 7S framework. What Mckinsey 7S framework, this was a study conducted at the Mckinsey in early 1980s by Tom Peters and Robert Waterman. These were the two people who had carried out this study, and what they had specified is that there are 7 internal elements in an organization. These 7 elements, they have classified it into hard elements and soft elements. 3 hard elements, 4 soft elements. And at the center, at the core of this stands the shared values, okay, which is one of the soft elements according to them. I shall be telling you what hard and soft elements are, but what is Mckinsey 7S framework? It is an organizational tool to achieve organizational effectiveness, to bring about a change in the organization. Definitely we know that organization exists in an environment, it has to adapt to this environment. To adapt to this environment, it needs to bring about changes in its strategies, in its structures. To bring about changes in its strategy structures, we have this Mckinsey 7S framework. Mckinsey 7S framework, as I said, these are the 7 elements. These 7 elements have been classified as hard elements and soft elements. What are these hard and soft elements? These hard elements are the ones which are easy to identify, which are easy to describe, which can be easily influenced by the management. Okay. These soft elements are, they're difficult to define, they're difficult to describe, you can say, non-tangible, which they have said, and they are not easily influenced. They're easily influenced by the culture. Fine. They're easily influenced by the culture. This is easily influenced by the management, and this is easily influenced by the culture. What stands here? The strategy, structure, system. What stands here? Style of leadership, skills, staff, and at the center, here we have the shared values. Fine. So we have the hard elements, the soft elements. These are 4 in number, these are 3 in number. These shared values also become a part of the soft values, and henceforth, now, why they have been placed at the center is what Robert Waterman and Tom Peters say is that these shared values are affecting every part of the organization. They're affecting the strategy, the structure, the system, the style of leadership, the skills, the staff, and hence they have been given the central role. They affect every part of the organization. Now, the next thing is that strategy. What does he mean by strategy? Strategy, the plan, basically the plan that has been formulated to achieve the objectives. The strategy, the plan devised to achieve the objectives. What the plan, everyone does planning. So that is what is the strategy. The structure is the hierarchy, the authority responsibility relationships that exist in an organization. The system herein refers to the daily activities and the procedures that are necessary to get the work done. Fine. This is what here we refer to as the systems. Then we have the style of leadership, the style of leadership that exists in the organization, the skills of the individuals, the employees in the organization, and the staff is the employees itself. Fine. So why this is important is that shared values form the central part of every organization. Organizations having strong central values, strong core values tend to be successful organizations. These core values will definitely affect the strategy, structure, systems, the style of leadership, the skills, staff. So why do we need this? To bring about change, to implement the change effectively so that the organization can cope up with the change. And that is where the importance of the study stands. And this is something which you can use in your answers, basically because it is a recent study that has been conducted, and it is widely, basically it has provided certain dimensions to what constitutes an organization. All these aspects constitute an organization. So if you're asked what constitutes an organization, you can add all these aspects in your answer, that according to Mckinsey study, what Tom Peters and Robert Mann has said. If not in detail, at least you can provide a mention of it. Fine. Now, after this Mckinsey 7S framework study, the next aspect is that organization. We have basically covered what theorists have said, what how they can be clubbed into 4 different aspects on the basis of definition given by the theorists. We have covered the images of the organizations. What images do we basically see after reading these definitions, after reading what these theorists have said? Then we have seen the recent study by Mckinsey 7S framework, which can be used in your answers regarding the organization, if at all, because from this topic, many questions have been asked year after year. So you cannot just overlook it. And now the next thing is that after going through so many definitions, we arrive at the features of the organization. Why I'm stating here is, see, this is nothing new again, the same points being repeated, but UPSC has asked it. Discuss the features of the organization. So you please have knowledge of it beforehand. Don't go and think there in the examination hall, because no one has the time for that. And in the examination hall, even despite knowing, brains don't tend to respond in that particular manner as is required. Now, after this, we come to the features of the organization. In this features of the organization, what has been said is that there are certain 4 characteristics which are common to every organization. Now, these 4 characteristics, why, if at all you're asked, again, the features of the organization, the basic features, please provide these 4 characteristics because it is common to every organization. The all other features, I'm not saying that they are common to every organization or they're not common. No, every organization exists in a different environment, exists in a different way, has a different strategy and a structure. They follow different ways and rules, right? So the basic features that every organization has is a hierarchy, a superior subordinate relationship, then a chain of like you can say a common goal. Goals cannot be that a department has different goal and the other department is working for a different goal. Yes, the individual goals in the department can be different, but the overall goal of the organization will be the same. It has to be common for every finance department, for marketing department. The individual goal of these departments might be different, but they're all pursuing to achieve one common goal. So common goal, hierarchy, then coordination of efforts. Coordination of efforts is that all the individuals, all the departments are coordinating their efforts. All of them are basically having clear rules. They are like you can say, there is clarity in their role. There's clarity in the role amongst the individuals at the different level. They all coordinate their effort. Why they coordinate is to avoid chaos, to avoid confusion, to avoid duplication of efforts, to bring about efficiency, right? Then the next is division of labor. All are performing same but related tasks. Now, what happens is all are performing different, but all the individuals are performing different, but the tasks are related. That is division of labor. So these all 4 things, these characteristics are common to every organization. Then there are certain also the basic features which you can provide: association of persons, 2 or more individuals obviously form an organization with a common purpose. Then it is a goal-oriented organization. The goal has to be clear, unambiguous, and there has to be clarity. Then after this, it is a process. Process is identification or the determining of the objective, identifying the tasks necessary to achieve those objectives, and then placing the right person at the right job, communication, coordination, and all these, basically whatever we've done in organization as a process, that has to be stated. And communication. Obviously communication is very important among the different departments, because without communication you will not know that how we are proceeding, how we are progressing. Within it is not only important among the individuals within the organization, but also amongst the different departments, among the different levels existing in the organization. So all these aspects, association of persons, goal orientation, then process, communication, coordination of efforts, then hierarchy, division of work, and common goal. Fine. These are all the basic features. And if at all you're asked the basic features in the exam, then kindly initially place those features at the top which are common to every organization. If you write association of person, that is fine, but see, this is something which is very basic. Provide something that you have knowledge about. Fine. And this question is also not tough, so that you feel that what has been asked. It has been asked in UPSC. So don't consider anything to be so easy. Don't consider things to be that difficult. It's just that a way of looking, a way of using the information that you have collected from various sources. What we are doing is we are reading many books, but we are not kind of utilizing the information in the desired manner, and that is why we are not getting marks in the exam. Because if we relate all the aspects that we have studied, if you write as a process, उसमें आप process में कौन सा Donald mention कर दो, you definitely, the teacher gets an impression that yes, you have read it and you have a knowledge, you have read it in depth. Otherwise, a child who is just mugging up will not be able to relate the aspects. Understand the concepts. You won't have any difficulty in the exam, definitely, because in commerce questions asked are very direct and they are repeated. Then the visible and the invisible reality of the organizations. This is again, what we're doing is whatever we've studied here, the same thing. It is not a part what I'm doing, visible and invisible reality of the organization. It is not a part of the Mckinsey 7S framework study. But yes, the systems used, strategy, structure, system, style of leadership, skills, staff, these all are same in this as well. What happens is that when we look at the organization, we get a perspective. We are able to see certain aspects of the organization and some aspects lie behind the curtain. It's just like an iceberg. If you look at an iceberg, you see the tip of, you see the, like you can say an iceberg, you see the tip of the iceberg, but you're not able to see what lies beneath the iceberg. This is the visible and the invisible reality of an organization, that you're able to view. What you are able to see is the visible reality. What are we able to see? The strategy, the structure, the system. Strategy, again, the plan that has been devised to accomplish the goals. The structure, the hierarchy that exists within the organization, the different levels that exist within the organization, the different departments that exist within the organization. The system, the tasks that are performed to accomplish those goals and objectives. This is the visible part of the organization. And the invisible part basically refers to the culture that is prevailing within the organization, the norms that are prevailing within the organization, the rituals that are prevailing within the organization, the core values that are in the organization, the style of leadership, the skills in the individuals in the organization. This forms the invisible part. Now, visible and invisible part of an organization is important. You see that these both visible and invisible part are related, obviously, because an organization is all these 7 aspects when combined together make an organization. A single aspect cannot make an organization. So similarly, those visible and invisible parts are related. And how they are related is that we see that organization exists within an environment, right? Now, what kind of environment? See, basically what kind of environment does the organization exist in? This depends upon like our understanding, right? the way the individuals in the organization perceive the environment to be, whether they consider the environment to be a stable one, whether they consider the environment to be something which is that is conducive to their goal achievement, whether they consider the environment to be a turbulent one, whether they consider uncertainty in the environment. It all depends upon the decision maker. It all depends how he looks at it. It all depends upon his perspective. It's the way of looking at things that determines. So here also the environment, how it is perceived to be, it depends upon the perspective of the individuals in the organization. Because environment exists the same for all, but some organizations consider it to be favorable and some consider it to be unfavorable. So in the same manner, we can say that individuals in the organization perceive the environment, and the environment depends upon their own perception. Then secondly, what happens is that another aspect which we shall see here is that the strategy, structure and systems, which we have referred here, the strategy, structure and system, this is the visible part, as I've said. Now, how is it related to the invisible part? The invisible part corresponds to the human element. Now, these human element, these individuals are the ones who are basically framing these strategies, framing the structure, framing this system, okay, framing the activities that are to be performed. So, you cannot, the strategy, structure, system and the individuals cannot work without the strategy, structure, system. The strategy, structure, system cannot exist without the individuals. It's like both of them need each other. So the visible and the invisible reality, why it is important is, again, if you're asked the dimension of the organization, or maybe if you're asked what is an organization, or you just can use it, okay. It's all just for providing a different perspective. That is what the same information has been provided to you in different dimensions today. It's not something we have added certain new aspects or certain new definitions to the organization, the same definitions, the same books, but we are looking at each and every definition in a manner that we can relate it. Relation is very important here. And now I shall end the class on this aspect. So this is one of the most recent studies. If you can incorporate it in your answers, definitely it will fetch you marks for this, and all the best. Thank you.